Welcome to the Influency Podcast. I'm Hadar, and today we are going to listen to a real life story about English success. You are going to listen to an interview with one of my students who is going to tell you what is possible now that English is no longer an obstacle. Let's listen.
Today we have Jacqueline, who's been my student for many years. I want you to hear her story because she is such an incredible woman with an interesting story, and all the things that she had to overcome are really an example of what's possible. What's possible for you once you overcome the challenges that English pose. So, Jacqueline, hi. How are you?
I'm doing great. I couldn't be better. Yeah, definitely.
So good to see you. You look lovely. I love the blue color on you.
Yeah. By the way, the blue is one of my favorite colors.
Felt it. I felt it. Okay. So tell us where you're speaking to us from, what time it is for you right now, and maybe a little bit of information about your background for those who do not know you.
Sure. My pleasure. So first of all, thank you for inviting me. I'm in high spirits to be here with you and your audience. My name is Jacqueline. I'm originally from Guatemala. Currently, I live in the U.S., in the state of Maryland, for the past 10 years. And I live on the East Coast.
Amazing. So tell me about, when did you move to the U.S.? Did you say that right
It
now?
was, it was back in September 2012.
2012. What was your biggest struggle moving to the United States from Guatemala?
Actually, the language.
Yeah.
I mean, in my area, in my community, everyone speaks English. And at the beginning, it was a nightmare. I wasn't able to speak. I wasn't able to understand. I used to think, oh my goodness, I can handle it because I relied on my husband for everything. Hey, can you please ask this? Can you please say this? Can you, everything?
So you weren't independent.
Yes, I was relying on him for everything. And I was scared of speaking because, I've been learning English for so many years. So I remember that my first English class when I was in the first year of middle school, when I was 13 years old. But, the old-fashioned way, right? Just books, boring classes. But at least, I'm thankful that I got good at spelling because I used to, I learned by heart the three verbs, verb 1, 2, and 3. At least I learned something.
Okay, so there is something good there with that method. Good.
Yeah, but when the English that I learned, I thought maybe I can get by, but it wasn't like that. Um, Especially because I didn't work on my listening skills and speaking, so I wasn't able to get what people were talking or were saying to me. I was scared, and I I stayed home for the first 6 years, speaking my native language, doing everything in Spanish. So I was probably, I felt that English wasn't for me because for 6 years during my time in middle school and high school, I spent 6 years trying to wrap up my head around the to be verb. I I couldn't understand when to use it and the prepositions. It's, crazy.
Wow.
And I didn't learn them in the proper way. I just learned them, okay, on means and in my native language. At means, just
Yeah.
isolated. So it was really challenging. And when I realized that, let's say in Spanish, we can say this in this way, but in English is in that way. So I said, why? And I was trying to use my Spanish grammar and, English
Yeah.
doesn't work.
Yeah. I think these are the tools that you're given in schools, right? In elementary school, and because it's easier to teach it like that, and also the brain wants to find reason and or structure, and it happens when you compare it to your first language where you feel familiar. So I think it's a big struggle. It's a big struggle for a lot of people. And I also want to say, I think your story is going to resonate with a lot of people, especially with immigrants, and in particular, immigrant women who have moved to the US. You know, I talked to Andrea from Brazil a few days ago, and like that feeling that you're dependent on your husband or your partner feels very, very limiting because there's not a lot you can do if you don't have the language. What was it like to feel so dependent on someone else?
At the beginning, I felt good. I felt safe, right? So he's the person who I can rely on, and he's going to be there for me always. But eventually, he told me, you know what? I think you should start talking more or trying to do something
Good for
else.
him. Yeah.
And then I started taking English classes at the community college. By the way, it was a bad experience for me, and I took intonation classes.
Oh.
I took a class about idioms, which I love it. I like idioms, sayings, and I'm passionate about that. But at least there is a silver lining, right? So out of those bad experiences, I took the good things, because while I was in New Zealand and we went over the mindset module, I learned about that, bad experiences can hold us back. And I was ashamed, and also I was angry because the experience was that it was an speaking class.
Yeah.
So the teacher, someone in power, and he used to, I remember that that was the first time that I saw something about vowels, which, vowels as well were a nightmare, but not anymore.
Not anymore. We'll
Yeah.
talk about that in a minute.
So,
How come? But yes. So
so
before the vowels, the sounds of English.
yes, I remember
were
that he gave us a chart about, but it was the color vowel, something like that. But he couldn't even explain to us how to use that. So I just remember, the chart, the colorful chart, and when I didn't speak a lot in the past, and also when he used to give us some small paragraphs to read to practice our reading skills, but instead of helping us, he was laughing at us.
Oh,
So
God.
literally, I don't know if you know the feeling that I was angry inside of me, but I wasn't able to speak up and say, why are you laughing? Right? If we are here, it's because we come here to learn. We don't know how to read, right? But I couldn't say anything, and that was holding me back. I felt ashamed, and that experience, yeah, it's like it's better not to speak because you're gonna be ashamed, or people will see that English is not your language, and it's better to be quiet. So I used to be a good listener, and I didn't speak a lot.
So you
Yeah.
developed that skill of listening because you avoided speaking because of that experience. And we talked about it. I talk about it in my mindset course and inside of New Sound about those experiences that they become like mini traumatic experiences where it's just like you just don't want to experience it again. So you avoid the situation, or it creates a belief, in your case, a limiting belief. If you make a mistake, you're going to be ashamed, embarrassed, or shamed for it, and all of those things. So the association of mistake creates the emotion of humiliation. And as a result, like, you would do everything in your power to avoid humiliation. That's what we do as human beings. It's in our primal brain. Like we want to be accepted. We want to be rejected. So you ended up teaching yourself to avoid speaking so that you wouldn't experience that again.
Yes, I had a lot of opportunities, but I just let them pass, and it was frustrating. and but I didn't know what to do. Right, I like learning on my own, so I watch a lot of videos on YouTube, and I came across your channel on YouTube because in one of those classes at the community college they were talking about connected speech, and all of those new topics were foreign for me. And then I Googled it, and then I went to YouTube, and then that was my first,
That's how we met.
experience. Yeah, yes. And then I started watching your videos, and you were talking about the way that you break down the sounds and talking about, mindset, and you can do it. I mean, hearing that we can do anything that we put our mind to is possible and feasible. It's, was mind blowing. And when I figured out that no when I found out that you are not a native English speaker, I said, wow, look at her. So she has worked so hard and she speaks like a native. And since then, I've been looking up to you, and they said, if she can, so can I. And
Yeah,
anyone, right, under
you
the sun, if
warm.
we work and if we have the tools and resources, support, and I think the most important thing is when someone cares, right, and empathy, because you went through that process. So you know what it feels to be, in those shoes when you don't know what to say, or if you want to say a lot of things, but anything um, comes out of your mouth. So it's frustrating.
Yeah.
And, but I think I needed to go through those experiences in order to, to be here today.
With
And
all the knowledge that you have, and which, even the bad experiences ended up being experiences that pushed you to really overcome those challenges and made you stronger and made you more resilient, so that you are no longer affected by people criticizing or having opinions about you, because you kind of like, who you are, you believe in your abilities, which, from how you speak, we can feel that.
yes, and a year ago, I started working on my mindset. And yeah, that was the first time that I joined New Sound in the spring of 2022. And I started learning about the vowels, which, those moments were important for me because I didn't I didn't yeah, understand the differences between vowels, because in my native language we have five vowels, five sounds, no more. Easy, right? But in English, English is crazy, but it's a beautiful language. I fell in love of English, and since then it has been more easy and enjoyable. I learned that as well.
So, Jackie, I have a question. What would you tell someone who feels very limited, like they've been learning a lot of they've been to a community college, and maybe they took a pronunciation class. Maybe they study on their own, they watch YouTube videos, but they still avoid speaking English, and especially for immigrants, right? People living in the US or Canada or Australia, England. Um, what would you tell them from all of your experience and knowing what you know now to help them overcome that challenge?
Yeah. First of all, I would say that we are selling ourselves short.
Ah,
And saying that, I mean that we take for granted many things that we are proficient at, right? So we are proficient in our native languages, right? So if we have, our experiences at work, in life, so that makes, important. I think the background experience, the education, the language. So we are taking all of those things for granted. And we are comparing ourselves to native speakers, which is unfair because, you know, we are putting our best every single day, and we are doing more than the native speakers.
Amen to that. Like, especially, yeah, you need to prove yourself more as an immigrant, as a non-native speaker. Yes.
And because of that, I felt behind. I used to think, I mean, I'm not at the same level of someone else because my English is not good. My English sounds, you know, horrible, something like that. But after New Sound, I learned that that's not true. That was all of that was limiting beliefs. And in fact, as I said, I'm proud of that I'm bilingual. My accent represents that I'm bilingual. I'm proficient in my language, and I'm working on my second language. And every single day I'm learning something new. And I learn in the program that the repetition and the small things, so we have to start small and simple, right? And we have to focus on the things that we are lacking. We don't have to, let's say, okay, I'm going to learn about conditionals, but if I don't know the basic sentences, I need to master the basic sentences first. So there are steps, and just also being kind to ourselves. And one activity that I really loved and changed my mindset was telling myself positive affirmations,
Okay.
telling myself that I'm worthy of speaking in English, even though that is not my first language. But I'm part of the language. I belong to the community who speaks in English. I'm part of that, and I've been working so hard. I was taking for granted everything
And I
behind.
want to add, I love everything that you're saying. And I want to add that even if you weren't working so hard, you still belong and you still deserve it, right? And you deserve to be treated equally and to get everything that you want with or without working hard, because that's just how it is. And sometimes we feel like we need to prove ourselves to be worthy of people's appreciation and validation. And no, simply by you existing and being you in this world, you are worthy, because you did work really, really hard and you deserve every single bit of the success that you experience today. But I'm sure that there are people who avoid speaking. And because of that, they feel crippled and they feel like they cannot do anything related to English. And I want them to know that even then, they deserve to have that experience and that feeling like they can use English however they want, even with mistakes. And those mistakes don't define them, they don't make them any less of a good person or a worthy person. And Jacqueline, I know you know that. Like, it's really so easy to get all those messages from, English classes and social media and YouTube and, even just watching the news, that it has to be perfect and it has to be a certain way and you have to sound a certain way and look a certain way to succeed. And we need to dismantle that concept. Otherwise, we will still stay limited and stuck like you were when you just arrived and you felt like you were wrapped up in that traumatic experience of, being humiliated for mispronouncing a word.
Yes, I second that, Hadar, because to me, it's, what really matters is communication over perfection. My goal is not to sound like a native English speaker because, I have my identity, right?
Yeah.
And I had a good experience a couple of weeks ago. I learned to stand up for myself. I'm the only one that can be my best advocate,
Yeah.
right? So I need to advocate for myself. So I had it was a good experience, and I felt good. So my husband and I, we had a meeting at a resort, and the person who was taking care of us was a typical American guy, you know nice and everything. And we had for, I believe, after 2 hours, we were having, our conversation was flowing smoothly, and actually I was asking more questions than my husband.
Good for you.
And the conversation was, like, as I said earlier, smoothly, and I felt good. And at some point, the guy said, I see that you have an accent, and your accent is different from your husband. And I look at my husband, and then I look at the guy, and I say, you know what? Yes, I have an accent, because that means that I'm bilingual. English is
Yes,
my second
Jacqueline.
language. And guess what? So this was, the cherry on top of the cake. I told him, and by the way, you also have an accent. And he was like, wait, no, but I'm a native speaker. Yes, I know that you are a native speaker, but even native speakers have an accent. Depending on the region that you grew up, you have an accent, because your accent is different from someone from New York or from the South, from Texas, right? And he was like, "Yeah, I get what you mean."
I
And
love that, Jacqueline.
I,
It's like you're educating people. It is so important.
yes, you know what? And as I said, I felt so good, because my experience now, I mean, moving forward, my experiences are different from the past, right? And I just let the past go, and I learned to, okay, if I fall, I'm just gonna get up. I'm gonna, brush off the dust and keep moving. And I'm doing that. So, that was, I don't know what it's a good experience for me. And my husband, he said, "Oh yeah, yeah, that's true." And even though your accent is similar to mine, because my husband grew up in the East Coast, so I think that's the neutral accent. And I was, inside of me, I was like, my inner child was, good job, you did it."
You did it. You
Yeah.
did it. You did it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And here's a beautiful, here's how you reframe an experience, because a lot of people, when something like that happens, when they get commented on their accent, especially people living in an English speaking country where they, this is already their country, this is where they're from. And then they get questions like, where are you from? Or comments about their accent that singles them out, and that says, hey, I recognize that you are not like me, assuming that I am the center and I belong here in the US or wherever you live, and you are different, even though that doesn't make any sense. And it's called microaggression, right? And usually what happens when you experience microaggression is, and it's kind of like a very subtle action that indicates some sort of a bias or some sort of even discrimination. Not that necessarily that was your case, but sometimes I feel like, oh, where are you from? And we feel like it's not always a friendly question. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it does get people to feel, I remember that when I immigrated to the US, when I lived there, every time someone would ask me about where I'm from or my accent, it would pinch me a little bit, because I would be like, but we're talking about something else. What does that have to do with my accent? And I don't want to talk about where I'm from. I want to talk about what we're talking about right now. So what you did is you took this very common experience of people who are non-native speakers speaking to native speakers, that they had to kind of like explain or defend or just feel like they did something wrong. And you reframed it, and you took back the power. Instead of feeling like, oh, he singled me out, I was like, I'm going to teach him something here. And I'm also going to say that you want to be mindful when you talk about this, because not everyone is comfortable with this conversation. Some people are, and for some people, it's not a problem at all. But I am speaking from the experience of so many of my students. Jack, would you agree?
Definitely. Yes. And I think you shouldn't be feeling afraid of, as I said, advocating for yourself. Because yes, I learned about microaggressions by watching your videos and interviews, and I started, noticing those, and I said, I'm not gonna let people, uneducated people, to treat me like that, because they don't know, as I said, what it takes to be in front of someone else that you are trying to communicate with them. I'm not trying to you know, be the same as them. No. As I said, I have my identity. I'm really proud of my roots, and I have two daughters, and I'm teaching them Spanish. I mean, my journey has been quite long, and sometimes I feel like it's in slow motion because I decided to speak Spanish at home because of them. I really feel that my family deserves to have a communication with my daughters.
Yeah.
All my family lives in Guatemala, my parents, my siblings, I mean, my whole family. And they don't speak English. And it's easier for my daughters to learn Spanish. And that was a decision because, as I said, I don't want them to lose that connection with a family, because family is number one for me, right? That is what drives me to do better, learn more, and achieve my goal.
I totally agree. And I would also add, because I speak to my daughter's Hebrew as well. So like I chose, I was trying to make a decision. Should I speak to them in English at home or Hebrew? And I feel like there is something about your native language that has a deeper personal connection with emotions and with who you were as a kid and how you were parented and how you were raised. And to me, it felt like if I were to, not that I judge anyone who uses English to speak with their child, it's very individual for every person. But to me, it felt like if I were to speak to them only in English, I would take away a very powerful part that is only connected to my first language, which is my connection to my parents and my connection to deep, deep emotions that are rooted in my childhood. So, and what you say, it's like even more so, that is really like you're also offering them a tool, because why wouldn't they speak? So I love that. And I guess that they had no problem learning English and speaking in English.
No, and actually, I mean, they learn Spanish first. While at home, we just talk in Spanish. But then when they started attending kindergarten, so they started, and it was mind blowing. 3-4 months, they started picking English and starting, speaking more English than Spanish, and eventually they, now they feel comfortable speaking in English. And I know that was something that was going to happen. And but still, I feel like my daughters, I think in the future, because at this moment sometimes they say, "Oh, mommy, no, I don't want to speak Spanish." Okay, and I'm always remind them, okay, this is something that you will be grateful in the future,
Yeah.
because instead of one person, you can talk to 500 people, right? So I think to me, language is a world, right? Because the language represents everything: music, food, the way that things are said is not the same. And also, I believe, as you said, I mean, some emotions or ideas can be translated into English. They don't
Right.
sound the same.
They don't feel the same in the mouth. They don't sound the same. And I want to take what you just said and connect it to English learning. And you said what you said to your daughters: do the hard work now. You're not going to like it. I'm going to make you suffer a little bit as you're speaking Spanish to me, but you're going to say thank you for it years from today. So it's kind of like, it's something that I heard recently from Mel Robbins: do the things today that you don't like, things that you do as your future self, right? So if your future self is a fluent English speaker, for if we talk about English, then do the work today that is needed for you to become the person that you want to be, to step into the identity that you want to be. So if you want to be speaking English without limitations, I'm not saying flawlessly, because I don't believe in that, but if without limitations, then you got to put in the work. And it has to happen at some point, because if you don't make a decision to do it and get through the hard part until it becomes a habit, and then it's no longer as hard as you think it is right now, right? But when you do it, then you create the reality that you want to have as your future self. And I think that is so important. I want to answer a couple of questions that came up here. And Jose said, I think people use the accent stuff as just an excuse for not pronouncing English properly. And for example, you talked about my accent and you said, I don't have an accent. So I did learn very diligently an accent that is called the standard accent, which is what you refer to as no accent because people associate it without any regionalism. And actually, the standard accent is the closest one to a Californian accent or a West Coast accent in the US. But it's still an accent which is a way in which the language is pronounced and used in certain musicality. And just like Jackie said, not everyone is born into this particular accent. So you might hear a person from New York, and to you, it might sound the same, but there will be small nuances, right? Maybe maybe the R is going to be harder in some dialects. Maybe the R is going to drop in some other dialects, British versus American. These are accents and dialects. So I just wanted to clarify that aspect. And there is also a non-native accent or a foreign accent, which is what we think about when we think about an accent. But ultimately, an accent is an accent. And as soon as you know a language, you have an accent. Okay. Someone was asking Jackie, maybe you want to answer it about New Sound if there are live lessons inside of New Sound. Do you want to talk a little bit about the experience?
Sure. Yeah, it's my pleasure because also on Sunday I joined the last live meetup with Karen and Christina, and I was in a breakout room with Carla. So she was sharing her experience, and then she asked about New Sound, and that is music to my ears, right? So it says. I really enjoy talking about that because in New Sound program I found the resources. I found the missing piece that I lacked because, as I said, I had a lot of knowledge, but I didn't know how to say them out loud. But in New Sound, I learned about habits. So you will have access to the modules, lifetime access. So even though the life experience ends in 3 months or 90 days, but you will have access to the modules and the recordings, so you can go back and watch them again and see, okay, I'm going to focus on this. So you will have also the hot seat. So you can sign up for one hot seat and you can ask any question that you might have, or if you want any piece of advice or pronunciation coaching, so anything. And also you will have access to a lot, so ton of opportunities to speak, to practice, which, by the way, I built up my confidence in the community because you are going to connect with like-minded people, right? So everyone in the community has the same North Star. We are working toward that goal. So everyone in the community is committed, to do whatever it takes, to develop that skill. And a language is a skill. In the past, I used to think that someone who speaks more than one language was because that person had a talent or a gift. But I was wrong. I learned that a language is a skill. And by that I mean that we can learn anything that we want through practice, repetition. And I was skeptical at the beginning when Hadar said, okay, 10 minutes a day is enough. What? No, it's not enough. I've been hearing that at least you need to be sitting for 2-3 hours, but no, that's not true. 10 minutes a day, believe me, it's enough. And you can work on you need to focus on, as I say, one thing at a time, and eventually you will be at more and more and more, and it's like a snowball, right? So you're gonna start small. That's what I learned, that start small and simple, and then you're gonna be working on a lot of things, and you won't realize, or you wouldn't know that you are learning through those short practice.
Yeah,
so definitely
Yeah, we talked about the compound effect, right? Like when you take small, consistent actions, positive actions, you don't feel the change from the day to day, but then ultimately you look back and it's like, huh, I've improved, right?
Yeah, just let me tell you this, Heather. I wasn't sure how to use adverbs. I was, should I put this at the beginning, in the middle, or at the end, or before the main verb, or after? I was, lost. But then I, I mean, I like learning grammar. I need to learn grammar in order to like digest how that part of the speech in Spanish works in English. But then I said I couldn't get when the proper place. But then through the sprints, that just 10 minutes, I love sprints. And eventually I started noticing patterns. And when you said, okay, so you can, adverbs can be before the main verb or after the to be verb, and, or at the end, depending on the type of adverb. And they said, now I feel comfortable with adverbs.
Wow.
And you will learn a lot. It's not just English. Also, in the community, you will hear about tools that can help you to overcome your challenges in English. And I've been using all of them. I gave them a try, and yeah, I'm in love with Wordtune and dictionary.com, Cambridge Dictionary. I mean, there are a lot of tools that I've been using, and taking the good, because there are, it's like a double sword, double, what is the idiom? It's a double-edged sword, because you can, yeah, you can get good things or bad things, right? But as I said, you need to get the good things out of any experience. And the last thing is try. Don't be scared of trying. You're going to fail, but out of every failure, every mistake, you're going to learn. And then, you are not going to make the same mistake. And then you're going to move forward. So that's like a try, fail, and try it again. So that's a lifelong journey. And the most important thing, Hadar, in the first round was to learn how to enjoy any conversation, any activity in English. Because in the past, I was scared, I was worried for things that don't matter. And when I started enjoying the activities, it was fun, and I learned more since then. Yes.
Yeah, that's amazing. And the reason why I love interviewing my students is because their success speaks for itself. Like seeing you feeling very grounded, very comfortable in your voice is really something that shows so much about the journey that you have gone through and all the work that you've put in. I really appreciate everything that you have done for our community and for yourself, because it's so inspiring. And Jacqueline and I met in New York, so we actually had a workshop live, which was such a pleasure working with her. So we do go way back. Because I think you joined New Sound. When was that? A year and a half ago? Was it?
No, last year.
A year ago, exactly. Yeah, a year ago. Good. And yes, like Jacqueline said, first of all, we really focus on community, and the community is a big part of the magic and the transformation, because first of all, you need to use English to be able to grow, and you need to use it in a space that you feel comfortable in, so you can explore and push yourself. Because if you feel criticized, or if you feel like you need to be someone else that is not you, because sometimes that's the case when you're in certain rooms or certain environments, then you will not dare to explore. And then you stay stuck and limited. This is where we feel like we're stuck in a plateau. But when you feel safe, that's when you allow yourself to do things that you wouldn't normally do. Say things, follow your impulse to speak, sing, do a monologue, or do all the things, all the crazy things that we do inside the program. So I believe that the community has a strong part in why this has been so transformative to so many students. But of course, everything else that you shared, we have the core training, we have live training with a lot of support and a lot of coaching and a lot of pronunciation coaching. There is a question from Mariela, and she says, Jacqueline was your student since the beginning. Does she start studying with you since zero English? I'm feeling motivation. Jacqueline, do you want to answer this? Well, first of all, good that you're feeling motivation. That was the point.
Sure. No, I've been working with Hadar since 2018. Means, but she didn't know it.
Makeover, I remember, of course.
Yeah, but before Accent Makeover, I watched your videos on YouTube, and then I joined New Sound. I mean, the Accent Makeover, and I learned a lot. But still, I was missing something. I learned more about the vowels, and then I started practicing them, and I learned about connected speech, which, as I said, that was something new to me. I didn't know how to connect words and how to the sneaky sounds that come between, depending on the letters or sounds. And but after that, as I said, the missing piece for me was the mindset, because as I said, I like learning by my own as well, and I have a few books, and I was like writing, collecting a lot of idioms, phrasal verbs, and a lot of things, but I wasn't working on my speaking skills. And then I follow you since then, and I watched that you launched your new program, and they say the first year, no, I'm busy, I don't have the time right now, but in the next round. And then the next round came, and said, no, I mean, this time is not the best for me, because in a few months I have to do this, and I won't have the time to, to be seated and, spend 3 hours, 2 hours practicing. They said, no, next round. And then, the years passed, and I mean, there is some regret, because, I could have done that earlier. But as I said, if I would have done that before, my speaking partners that I met in the first round and the second round, so I wouldn't have the chance to meet them, in a personal level and something like that. So I think, so last year I was on the fence as well, saying, no, this time is not good, because last year my sister was pregnant, and I knew that I had to, help her out with the baby and her, and say, oh no, the baby's gonna born in May, and Nusan is gonna be, in the middle of those months. No, maybe next round. But then I watched the stories from your students, and they were so motivated. And then Leah, she shared her story as well, that she went through almost the same experience than me, that she had a friend with a baby, and then said, okay, it's now or never, right? I've been telling myself, or holding back, next year or next round. And I said, okay, I'm gonna do it now. I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna have a lifetime access, and I'm gonna have the support. And they say I'm just gonna go with the flow. And I mean, I couldn't be happier and grateful that I made that decision, because there was a turning point in my fluency and my journey in confidence. It's not just English; it's every as a whole process. Yeah. And the last thing, I just wanna tell you, if you are overthinking it, just do it. I mean, take advantage of the let's say, I know that if you are struggling with money or something like that, take advantage of the financing program, which, by the way, I took advantage of that. I signed up with the monthly payment. Every single penny is worth it, believe me. I mean, you can see the it's not just my story, it's the everyone in the community has something to say about that. And I've been repeating this adjective that I learned in one of my
I
trainings at
know
work. I
it
remember.
is.
Yeah. So let me say this, that to me New Sound is like a unicorn, right? It's unique, it's one of a kind. And the last adjective is it's a world class program. You will get more than you will pay. As I said, you will have the core program, the support from the coaches, Hadar, the community, which is priceless, and the resources. If you are behind, there's always someone behind checking in on you, and that feels good. It's like I'm not alone on this road. I have someone guiding me, like holding, literally like holding my hand. Do this today. You have to drill this. You have to do this, do that, and just follow the daily recommended practice, and you will feel that change, and you will learn more, and you will, as I said, you will get more than the investment. I call it an investment. It's something that you won't regret.
Amazing. Wow, I couldn't have said that better. That was so beautiful. And I so appreciate every single word. And I want to say, just to kind of like, you hear Jacqueline's story and you've heard previous stories as well, and go to the website and read the stories of almost 200 students who share the same experience. It's not just someone who is super talented or unique or something like that. It is people just like you, if you're struggling with English, that just follow a path that is right for them and really takes into account really everything that you need to succeed. And I know these are hard times, and I know that this is an investment. So this is why you have two things that can play in your favor. One is that we have the 8 payment plan or the 12 payment plan. So you can break it down into smaller installments. And we have a full money back guarantee. So within the first 14 days, which means that you actually, if you join, you actually get to take part in 2 full modules. You get access to 2 full modules before you make the final decision. So there is a way back. Like you can say, no, this is actually not for me. This is not worth the investment. And we are happy to give you your money back, because we don't want anyone who doesn't want the program. We want people who are committed, because it is a commitment, not just a financial commitment. It's time and energy and intention and attention. So it's really for everyone, but you need to want that. So if you do, I do invite you to join, even if you're not sure just yet, and use the refund option if it's not for you. Because when you take action now, just like Jacqueline, like, you will start seeing results. Things will happen to you, but things will happen to you when you take action, when you make the first step, and when you take the right action that is aligned with how you, when your brain, are designed to thrive when learning a second language. Jacqueline, I want to say thank you so, so much. You've been such a huge inspiration to all of us, and you are a world-class lady, my friend.
Thank you.
I'm honored to know you, and I'm honored to be your teacher. Thank you so much. Do you have any last thing that you want to say?
Uh, Two things: that I'm flattered. Thank you for your words, kind words. And this phrase, I've been, hearing and learning new phrases every day, but I learned this from one of the sprints. Say, you snooze, you lose, right? So don't hold back, and just give it a try. You don't have anything to lose. Just as Heather said, there is guarantees that if you don't feel comfortable, you will just send an email, and that's it. And enjoy the ride.
That's the most
Yeah.
important thing. I think that if you don't enjoy this work, it's not going to work. You're not going to feel the progress. You need to enjoy the practice. You need to want to get to your English practice so it becomes a fun habit. And also, the brain is so much better at learning when the emotion is positive, not when it's negative. And unfortunately, when learning, there's a lot of the stress and anxiety and not feeling good enough or just boredom. And then you're not designed to remember it like that. The brain doesn't register. So and then you think, oh, it's my problem. I just don't know how to learn. No,
No.
it's just that your brain is not receptive to new information because there is resistance and there are limiting beliefs. And there is a part in you that thinks, I can't do this. And all of that affects to how you're able to learn. So yeah, and thank you for telling us all of that.
Yeah, and be willing to be ready for, new opportunities. Definitely learning English will open doors for you.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's something in store for you. And what a better way to have them in English, right? So
100%.
yeah.
Amazing. Jacqueline, thank you so much. I love you.
Thank you. I love you too. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.